we have Marisa Field, 11-year vet with national team. Born in Comox, 6'2", played UBC, won a Swedish championship in 2016. Where else? You have a pretty extensive resume for your age in the volleyball world. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've played 7 different countries over the last 9 years of professional. It's been definitely an adventure. Kind of a journey that I got on that I wasn't really expecting to be on originally. But it's been great. I've been able to make a living playing my sport and sharing my passion with cultures across the world. Had a pretty good run at it, and I'm hoping that I'll get to continue living the dream for a couple more years before hanging up the knee pads. So,
right on. So, for only being 31, you have quite the resume. Who was the first person to kind of point you in the direction of volleyball?
Actually, I would have to say that was my mom. She didn't play volleyball, but I think it was probably grade 7 or so, and my friends kind of weren't really into playing sports, and she kind of gave me the nudge and the push a little bit to stick with volleyball and keep going. And I was playing basketball at the time and doing dance since I was 3 years old. So I was doing those things, but yeah, one of her friends' daughters had played volleyball, and that was kind of how it started.
Right on. So were you a multi-sport athlete other than dance? Did you play soccer, field hockey, whatnot? Was there anything else that you did other than volleyball?
I did. I played basketball from grade, I think, 8 to 10, and then it was a little too much running for me, so dropped that one off the bat. And I was a jazz and ballet dance since I was like 3 years old. I did that from 3 till 16. And I think that was super helpful for kind of my future athletic career. Just learning discipline from an early age and just getting that coordination and kind of core strength and overall physical strength just in general. So yeah, I was doing all 3 up until grade 11, and then in grade 11 I just kind of stuck with dance and volleyball, and then grade 12 I ultimately chose volleyball and kind of went from there.
Right on. So I know you're born in Comox. You lived and grew up in Kelowna. So I'm guessing you played for Kelowna Volleyball Club, seeing that back in your era and my era, there wasn't as many club teams around. Was there a certain coach that really inspired you to take the next step where you knew volleyball could be something more after high school, after club? For instance, going to UBC and even, making the national team?
Yeah, so that was actually, I think I was recruited to Oregon State University when I was in grade 11, I think, and then a couple other schools, SFU in grade 12, and I was actually almost pretty set on going to SFU and had registered and everything, and then May of grade 12, I just decided I didn't want to leave home yet and I wanted to stay. So that was Steve Manuel, was the coach. It was actually OUC then, the first year I was there, Okanagan University College. And so I started in with him and had a great first season, and then second season that I was with, it was UBC Okanagan that year. And I got recruited by Doug Reimer at UBC Vancouver, and Steve kind of gave me the slightly forceful nudge, told me to get out and level up to the CIS for the next year, and I think that was a huge step. And then I had Doug Reimer and Jesse Knight my first year at UBC, and after just one season with them, I was invited to try out for the national team, and I made it. So I think I would say those 3 coaches were pretty monumental in my development and kind of the progression of where my volleyball career went and what level I've reached now today. So
For sure, and three highly respected coaches in the volleyball Canada world. Steve
Yeah,
Madden, BCO, Doug Reimer. Is he retiring, or is he still going?
never.
Never. Fair enough. I got to hear him speak actually at the Volleyball Canada Nationals, and it was very intriguing. A lot of the stuff that that he passed on to us coaches, I thought it was a great opportunity for coaches to get that one-on-one experience with coaches such as Doug Reimer and Jesse Knight. He's back on the island now, I've known Jesse for a long time. Again, a highly respected coach. Did some stuff with him at Volleyball BC. So, and big names in the world that you got to kind of feed from. So definitely a great starting point for you as an athlete moving forward.
Definitely, say those three coaches were pretty pivotal in my kind of excelling me through going from college level to CIS, or it's U Sport now, but from there and then up to the national team and becoming a professional athlete. Because actually, when I originally started at UBC Okanagan, I was planning to play 4 years and be a chemist. So kind of changed the whole path of my life going to UBC, and that was in part with Doug and Steve. So
so when was the transition in playing pro? Obviously a lot of national team players go from playing on the national team, and then I guess during the off season you guys play pro ball around the world. How does that all work?
So you don't really have an off season. You go from national team, which is May, until, depending on the year, like September, October, and then after that it's kind of ship off once you're finished university. So I graduated in 2009 from UBC, and then I started playing professionally right away. So you go straight over to a contract somewhere in Europe or Asia or wherever you're going, and you're playing for the rest of the year, and then straight back to national team whenever your season there is done.
So with the things that happen in today's society and these different movements, being a professional female athletes, was there any speed bumps that you came across as a female athlete trying to make a living and that sort of environment?
I think for female athletes, it's just kind of unfortunately always going to be, or has been a little bit more difficult. You typically just don't make as much money as male professional athletes. Women's sports aren't typically as popular in a lot of places. A lot of places in Europe. Fortunately, I think volleyball actually is fairly popular over in Europe. So that's been good. I just came from the Philippines, and actually there, women's volleyball is huge, and men's volleyball is not really such a popular sport there. So there are some places around that are, kind of younger girls are getting more interested in sports. They want to compete, and I'm happy to be part of that group of female athletes that kind of inspires the next generation.
Right. And right now you're currently with, is it the Lady Realtors?
That's where I was playing, in the Philippines.
In the Philippines. And are you heading there next year, or are you?
No, in negotiations right now with some other clubs back in Europe. So just waiting to kind of see where the next step is and what's going on there.
Right on. So over the past 15 years plus of playing volleyball, how have you personally seen the sport evolve?
I think, just skill and peak performance in sport, I think, is continually evolving. I think sports just typically get better with time, and that's a lot with kind of the evolution of sports science, and new technologies, new studies are always going on. They're always trying to find better ways and strategies. Gone through quite a few different training programs, I would say, depending on what kind of the latest idea behind it is, or yeah, having different trainers, like they all have their own methods and their own ideas of what works and that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, just there's been more focus also, like you don't just go to practice and do your court training, like you're expected to keep up with your nutrition and your mental health and physical training and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of become a little bit more focused around other areas and not just about your sport training kind of thing.
Right on. So it's been a positive change, the transition over the last 15 years.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think coaches and trainers and all that are seeing that there's other important roles, and a lot of more resources are coming out with more focus on, specialized like sports psychologists or nutritionists like are working with our teams, that kind of thing. So I think that's been good. And I think also a big change has been just also about athletes kind of sharing their stories and their struggles a lot. There's been a few like big name athletes come out and talk about mental health issues and struggles and that kind of thing. So I think that's actually really really cool and important, like that's kind of shared and you can relate to other athletes in the sport world.
Right. No, fair. Yeah, I've from a club point of view and a youth side of things, I've seen obviously the sport blow up in the last I'd say 3 to 4 years. It's really doubled or tripled in size. So I think we're heading down the right path, but I think there's a lot of work to be done. But it's great to see that volleyball is getting more of featured, if you will, regarding the men's team going to the Olympics. The beach teams that are doing really well right now. The women's national team playing at the volleyball nationals in Edmonton this past season. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of how things are going. So we'll see what there is to come. So
yeah.
But for our athletes, as athletes, what words of inspiration, what words of wisdom would you tell an athlete right now who's coming up in the club world? Stuff to focus on, anything at all. What would be your words towards an athlete?
Well, if you're coming up in volleyball, I'd say start training to be an opposite. If you have dreams to play professionally, they always get the best contracts.
Yeah.
No, but I think sports have kind of shaped my entire life. I think I've had phenomenal experiences through that. I've traveled the world, met countless people, had mentors through sports, made lifelong friends, and that's kind of all thanks to the gift of being able to play volleyball. So I think for young athletes coming up, I think I would just have to say stick with it, and you won't regret doing that. You're gonna struggle, it's gonna be super hard, you're gonna be you will fail over and over. You'll be devastated, if you get cut from a team or you lose a big game or something like that. You're gonna kind of have all those things throughout your career. But I think one of the biggest things I've learned is perseverance through volleyball. And I think you learn the skills like teamwork and dedication and discipline. All those things kind of help you out and help you succeed in life afterwards. And I think when you do have that success, either as an athlete or with your team or whatever, I think it's a type of joy that you don't really get to experience in a lot of other facets of life. So I think, just stick with it. It's going to be super hard. It's a game of precision, so it takes a long time for sure. And I think just being patient with yourself and just keep going.
Fair enough. Now, a little side question here. What was the most memorable to date for you as an athlete?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What was the most memorable experience you've had as an athlete to date?
I think I always have to go back to winning the CIS National Championship with UBC for the first time in 30 years. It was the the women's program hadn't won 30 years, 2008. We went from the first season I was at UBC, we didn't even make the Final Four. And then the following year, we said we're going to win nationals, and we put it up as our on our top of our goal sheet the first meeting of the year, and chipped away at it. And we won like 20-18 in the fifth set against University of Montreal. And I think that was probably, still to date, I think the coolest experience, best memory for sure.
So do you feel that it's important for teams to have a goal sheet, or, personal goals, team goals? How important are those goals to be, obviously, some, for you guys, obviously nationals was a realistic goal, but with youth sports these days, basing this towards youth sports, I think sometimes parents, players, coaches might have unrealistic goals that don't coincide with each other. And I think all three people, the parents, coaches have obviously a common goal, which gets them to, a realistic goal.
Yeah. No, I think goals are important. Like I've been setting goals since my the last 15 years at least playing volleyball. And I think I think the process of setting a goal and then working back on how you're going to achieve that is valuable. That was kind of like what we did, and I've done it with other teams. I think you have to set a goal that you have a path to achieve. So if you want something specific, or you want to make a certain team go to a certain university post-secondary, definitely have a realistic idea of how you're going to get there, and then kind of go back from there. And if you're following the steps and you're making it so far, like I think that's I think you can achieve anything if it's within your realm of commitment.
Fair enough. So if a player is looking to play post-secondary, maybe what's left with 6'2" height, what's the best way of players, what do you suggest for players that are looking to go down that road? Is this something that you kind of focused on at U14, or is this something you focus on at U17, 18? What would be your recommendations?
Well, I think for myself, like when I was U14, I was terrible at volleyball, like terrible. couldn't play pepper, couldn't serve overhand till like grade 11 or something. Like I was not looking at that when I was U14. I think athletes now and their parents and coaches and whatnot are kind of getting them into it a little bit younger, which is actually good because you kind of start earlier. You have that focus a few years ahead, and that can help you. So like I was 6'2", so had a little bit of a kind of advantage there, even though my skills were pretty terrible at U14. But I think like in general, for sure, like when you're kind of around the grade 10, 11 age group, it's good to start thinking about if you want to go post-secondary and play somewhere. Just start talk to people and make yourself as visible as you can. I think network with coaches. Like coaches are always talking to one another, right? So even if when you're in high school, it's kind of which teams you're on is sort of dependent on where you live. So you don't always have control over that. But I think like whenever you're at tournaments or nationals or something like that, like just there's always people watching. So I think keep that in mind. Like it's a lot of volleyball is kind of timing and who sees you play your best game, whatever given day. Or I think keep that in mind, that whenever you're playing games, you're at tournaments or anything like that. And I think even just throughout practices, like if your coach thinks that you're have potential or you could do something, like most coaches typically want to see their athletes succeed, so I think they'll help you out. And I would definitely say by grade 11 and 12, coaches from universities and things like that, they start recruiting athletes. So yeah, I think definitely like have more in mind when you're getting close to graduating from high school, that people will be looking at you.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, so do you believe that an athlete has to be on the best team to be noticed? Or, obviously with, the club world right now, there's so many teams. In high school, you might have an opportunity to switch schools to be on a certain team, and you just kind of get the cards you're dealt regarding school.
Yeah.
But how important is it to be on a style of team to be noticed, or will your skills shine through?
I think like if you're not on the best team or you're not winning every championship you're at, I think it's not necessarily that you have no shot. Like I said, like coaches are always talking. There's always people watching. Get involved as much as you can. Talk to other coaches. Talk to other players. I think there's always a chance that if you're kind of the shining star, even if your team's not doing well, if you're a standout on your team, you'll definitely be noticed for sure.
Fair enough. Now, I know that over the summer, and we were lucky to have you come out in January. I know that you've kind of taken a coaching role. So tell people kind of what you're all about during the off season and your camps and clinics that you're running.
Well, this is the first summer off that I've actually had in about 15 years. So just kind of got into doing a little bit of the clinics, and I had the break between the 2 seasons in January. I came out and did the ACE camp, or the clinic, and that was an awesome experience. That was actually the first clinic that I fully planned and run myself. So I was happy to be there, work with those athletes and work with the club, and super positive experience. So definitely be interested in doing that, schedule permitting, of course, but looking to kind of give back and hopefully inspire and spread some knowledge to the younger generation, and just do what I can if I have time. So
fair enough. Now, is there anything that you would, kind of words of wisdom to coaches that you would really want coaches to push at a younger age? Something that you might have seen with athletes coming up that are younger than you, that is, that they might have been missed during their, early fundamental years.
I just did some a couple of weeks of camps with UBC, and it was kind of younger age group than I'm kind of had experience with in a while. And I think from that I kind of learned like it's really important to keep like the young kids, keep them engaged, keep the drills kind of switching up a lot. I think personally I would have to say, like, I think getting the basic foundations of the skills early on is key, because really when you're like U14 or whatever, you're just starting out, like all you need is like a lot of touches, a lot of reps. I mean it can be boring for sure, like, but that's kind of what you need at that age group. And I don't know, when I was growing up through volleyball, like I wasn't on weight programs or anything like that when I was in high school. I think that's coming into it a little bit more now. Kids are starting with that, maybe even in club, the U17, U18s probably for sure. So kids are getting stronger a lot sooner. Like I said, I couldn't even serve overhand until grade 11. So a little bit weak there, but I think just a million reps and a lot of time and patience.
No, and that's fair. And when you ran the camp out here in January, I thought it was really awesome how you right back to fundamentals and told these athletes that, the national team still works on these fundamentals. And hearing it from you is a lot different than hearing it from myself or another coach or their parents or whoever, right? So I thought it was a really great experience for those kids to have, and kind of realize that even the most simple stuff has to be always worked on, perfected, and when it's perfect, you do it another 100,000 times, and that's right? So now, is there something that you feel that coaches overlook, because they think, oh, you're a U16, you might, you should know how to hit overhand, or you should know how to serve even at, at U17. Is there something that coaches should, to better the sport, to improve our national ranking on the male and female side? Is there something, in your opinion, that, that we can work on as coaches at a younger age group, so that, years down the road, that sort of issue is perfected?
Yeah, tough to say. Skill wise, yeah, it really is. It's a huge foundation of things, and yeah, you like one of the first days last summer of national team, it was like, okay, go past 800 free balls perfectly, like in your groups. Like, so as middles had to pass 500 or 800 free balls. Like, you're just doing these reps, but yeah, you're literally still at the national team level. And if those skills aren't perfect, you're gonna be doing them over and over. So,
Sure.
I think. Sorry, can you still hear me? You're frozen there.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just for coach, I think being aware that volleyball is a huge mental game. Like some very famous coaches have said, it's actually 80% mental, 20% technical, physical. So I think just being aware of that and kind of instilling into younger players have that themselves. A fine line between having high expectations and demands on players and then still kind of finding a way to give them confidence, push them to kind of reach those goals that they've set.
No, fair enough. Now that, during your off season, is there a way for coaches, clubs, school coaches, club coaches, is there a way for them to get a hold of you? If they
I think, well, LinkedIn is good for me regularly. My Facebook, my personal account.
Fair enough.
I do have volleyball Facebook page. It's Marisa Volleyball, and I try to go through those things on that as well. Although they don't go through, but I think LinkedIn's probably the best. And then yeah, if you don't have that, you can find me on Instagram or on the Facebook, the athlete page.
Right on. Well, I can say from personal experience, it was an amazing time having you out in Calgary in January. I know all our parents and players loved it. I know for me personally, I know it will happen again based on your schedule. So any coaches that do, watch this, I would highly recommend touching base with you and see how you can benefit their teams or clubs and whatnot. So I really want to thank you for your time. I know you took time out of your schedule to be a part of this. You're a true inspiration, obviously, female athletes, all athletes in the volleyball world, being such a long-term national team and the growth in the sport of volleyball. So thanks for being a part of this, and I hope that this information really helps coaches, players, parents, and inform certain directions to go.